Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This is going to be my post-fight breakdown and reaction for UFC Vegas 32. The main event was Cory Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. You had TJ Dillashaw returning after a 2-year layoff because of a PED suspension. If you guys watched my prediction, I predicted that Cory Sandhagen would win the fight. And I thought that he would just be too much on the feet for TJ Dillashaw, especially coming in 2 years off, some ring rust, potentially no longer using PEDs. I had no idea what TJ Dillashaw would look like, and I just thought he was going to lose the fight, and I thought he was going to be outclassed by Cory Sandhagen. Now, was that accurate? I don't believe so, but I really believe that Cory Sandhagen won this fight, even though he lost on the judges' scorecards. The judging was all over the place tonight. I know some people did have it for TJ Dillashaw. Now, I didn't think it was an absolute travesty of a decision, but I personally thought that Cory Sandhagen won, and that's not just because I predicted him to win. I just feel like he won the fight. Now, in terms of MMA judging and round by round, this fight was close. But in terms of, this doesn't matter at all. In terms of the fight as a whole, Cory Sandhagen beat the brakes off of TJ Dillashaw. I know someone's going to comment and say I'm crazy, but for the most part, in my opinion, the entire fight was Cory Sandhagen picking TJ Dillashaw apart, and it was TJ Dillashaw diving in, lunging in with big looping punches, just distracting punches, looking to get into the clinch and the takedown. Now, a lot of people thought TJ Dillashaw was going to work in the wrestling in this fight. He had a massive height disadvantage in this fight. Cory Sandhagen has shown in the past his weakness is defensive grappling. We've seen it against Aljamain Sterling. But TJ Dillashaw is nowhere near the level of Aljamain Sterling as far as grappling goes. And I just didn't think he was going to be able to do that. And he really wasn't able to do it. I think he might have got 2 takedowns in this fight. And for the most part, he was just clinching up, getting that back mount or back body lock, whatever you want to call it. Sandhagen's face is against the cage. He's fighting the hands. And eventually he would get it for 10, 15 seconds. He would throw a couple knees to the legs. And then Sandhagen would fight out of it and circle out, and the striking would be back. So as far as round by round, how did I have it? TJ Dillashaw, without a doubt, took the first round. I think the first round was kind of close on the feet. It was the same thing, kind of TJ lunging in. He landed some decent shots, but Sandhagen was getting the better of him. Eventually, I think it was a wheel kick that Sandhagen threw, and he got taken down. And then he had like a reverse triangle from the bottom. And eventually, he rolled for a knee bar or a leg lock of some sort. And I said it during my live stream. By the way, if you join me for the live stream, I appreciate you. I said it during that. I kind of cringe when a guy goes for a leg lock in the position they were in, because it just leaves your head open to ground and pound. We've seen people get KO'd like that before. If you remember Alan Belcher versus Rousimar Palhares forever ago, Rousimar was just so desperate for that leg lock, and he just ate nasty ground and pound. We've seen it in the previous fight with Darren Elkins, something similar. Obviously, it wasn't a finish or anything like that. And supposedly, it was towards the tail end of the round. TJ landed some nasty ground and pound off that leg lock attempt from Sandhagen. And supposedly, TJ popped his knee. Something was going on with his knee from Cory Sandhagen looking for that knee bar or leg lock. So TJ took the first round. Then you had the second round where Cory Sandhagen put on an absolute performance. He landed nasty strike after strike on TJ's chin. He was just circling out. It was TJ pressing forward, looking to initiate the clinch, looking for the takedown. He was lunging forward with big shots. Occasionally they would land, but it wasn't with any frequency, in my opinion. I haven't looked at the stats. Half the time, I don't even believe those stats, honestly. I know that sounds crazy, but it just seemed like he was diving in. Eventually, in a couple exchanges, Cory Sandhagen just landed some hard punches. And I don't know what it was, but TJ Dillashaw got cut on the eyebrow nasty. He was bleeding like crazy. That Herb Dean even stopped the fight to have the doctor look at it. It wasn't dripping like directly in the eye, but it was not good for TJ at all. So by the time that second round came to an end, and I think also Sandhagen landed a flying knee that looked like it hurt Dillashaw badly. Now, I have to admit, TJ Dillashaw's chin was looking amazing tonight. He ate some big shots from Sandhagen. But Cory Sandhagen clearly took that second round, in my opinion. I think a lot of people agree with me, even the people who believe that TJ won that fight. So then you go to the third round. And the third round, it's hard to remember because there were so many fights that went on. The third round, I believe, is where TJ was really upping the leg kicks. And that was TJ's bright spot in this fight. He was really chopping Cory Sandhagen's leg. It was being effective. And we see in fights all the time where a guy's having effective leg kicks, and then all of a sudden he stops throwing them for whatever reason. TJ Dillashaw did not really do that. He was chopping the leg kicks up until Sandhagen really started checking some of them. That he kind of started throwing less of them. But at one point he was spamming them in the third round. He got some of those clinches. I don't remember exactly when he got the takedowns, but maybe he got one takedown in that round. There was a couple times where he got Sandhagen's back, kind of dragged him down to one knee. I don't think that counts as a takedown. And just had a dominant position. And he landed some decent shots on the feet, some decent jabs, and he won that third round. Then the fourth round was more of the same from Sandhagen as far as the second round. TJ just lunging in, and TJ really wasn't landing at any, particular, volume by any means. He was just lunging in. Sandhagen was backing up, looking to counter, and then TJ would initiate the clinch. And I don't know if it's something Sandhagen was training or he's the most comfortable. We used to always talk about Woodley always had his back against the cage, and we thought it was because he was most comfortable defending takedowns that way. I don't know what it is in Sandhagen's training, but he was always giving the back body lock and fighting the hands, turning his face towards the cage, fighting TJ Dillashaw's hands, and then circling out. And he was very effective at doing that, so maybe that was his best way to defend the takedown from TJ. TJ had a lot of takedowns attempts in this fight, and I think he only got 2 of them, I want to say. I could be wrong on that. And in that fourth round, I think Sandhagen won that fight. Now, won that round. As far as the fifth round, I think it came down to the fifth round. So I had TJ Dillashaw with round 1. I had Cory Sandhagen round 2. I had TJ Dillashaw round 3. And I had Sandhagen round 4. So it was 2-2 going in that fifth round. But without a doubt, and I know it's round by round, but I'm just saying, without a doubt, Sandhagen did the most damage. TJ, for the most part, just bright spots were chopping the leg and getting the clinch and not doing really anything with it, The most that he did was off that spinning heel kick in the first round where he got him down, landed some ground and pound, while Sandhagen was looking for the leg lock towards the tail end of the round. And at one point I wanted to mention, because, I am biased against TJ Dillashaw. I don't like the guy. He's a cheater. He's injecting EPO into his body, then complaining about stoppages. But when I try to give my breakdown of the fight, I try to be as unbiased as possible. And I know it's, no matter what, some bias comes through. But I genuinely believe that Sandhagen won this fight. And come in the fifth round, I have to give it to TJ Dillashaw. He came out and he knew he needed that fifth round to win the fight. He was coming forward, lunging hard, but he wasn't really landing anything. He never really hurt Sandhagen. He never really damaged Sandhagen at all. Sandhagen was just countering him. And I think this comes to question, how much were the judges taking into account that back mount control, or not even a back mount, that back body lock where Sandhagen kind of pressed his face into the cage, fought the hands. These positions lasted for maybe 10 to 30 seconds. And TJ was just kneeing the legs, not doing much with it, not ever really getting him down off of that position. And I think it kind of screwed Sandhagen here. I think he needed to have more of a sense of urgency to get out of that. And that happened a couple times in the fifth round. TJ, again, just moving forward, throwing bombs, and then initiating the clinch, looking for the takedown. And I just think in the fifth round, Cory Sandhagen, even though he was put in those positions in that clinch, I think he landed the more effective strikes. I think he was landing some decent jabs. He was landing some kicks of his own. And I think he took the fifth round. But the fifth round was close. That's why I don't think, even though I thought Sandhagen won this fight, I don't think it was an outright robbery. And I know some people are going to say, look at TJ's face and look at Sandhagen's face and, you tell me who won. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. We go round by round. That's why MMA scoring is the way it is. It's round by round. But either way, it was an absolute phenomenal fight by both guys. TJ Dillashaw really impressed me tonight. I didn't think he would be able to come out and look, be able to compete with a guy that I'm super high with in Cory Sandhagen, and, coming in off a 2-year layoff. So, the cardio did not look like to be an issue for TJ. I thought he looked a little tired after that second round. I said that in my live stream. He looked like he was breathing heavily, but it really didn't seem to affect him. He looked good all the way up into the fifth round. He was going for a finish in that fifth round. Even though I'm complaining he didn't really land anything, he was looking for a finish. He was looking to stop Cory Sandhagen. And the cardio didn't appear to be a factor in the fight. One thing I did notice, and I did not expect this in the fight, I talked about my pre-fight Both guys change stances a lot. They use their footwork a lot to change angles and stuff like that. I don't know if it was because the first and second round was, really, exhausting for both guys, but both guys were unusually flat footed in this fight. Just not really changing angles as much. You pretty much had Cory Sandhagen backing up the whole fight, looking for counter strikes, while TJ was just using big looping punches to try to initiate the clinch. And TJ chopping the legs too, which I think was super effective against Cory Sandhagen. But I really expected to see more footwork, more changing of angles, more shot variety. It was mainly the hands. We did see TJ chopping the legs, but both guys were mainly throwing, punches the entire fight. There wasn't a lot of kicks. Cory Sandhagen was throwing some flashy stuff. That's why he got taken down in the first round. On one of the takedowns, he threw a spinning heel kick. TJ caught it and kind of took him down. Also, TJ was throwing some decent body kicks throughout the fight. It wasn't a whole lot of them. And I think the reason why was Sandhagen was catching a lot of them and then countering him off of them. He was catching them after they landed, so, TJ was getting something. But I think eventually he kind of abandoned that because he's catching these and then countering me off of them. I think he tripped him one time off catching the kick. And it was a back and forth fight. TJ was busted up and bloodied badly. The doctor checked his cut three times, I think, throughout the fight. The cut guys did a great job on that cut. It was a filthy cut on the eyebrow. And I have to give it to TJ, even though, I talk about it all the time, and I was talking about this in my live stream. And I'll talk about it in the first fight on the main card when I briefly discuss the other fights on the main card here in a second. There is guys who face adversity in the fight game, and they pack it in. And there's guys that face adversity, and it makes them want to get that win even stronger. And TJ Dillashaw is one of those guys. He's super competitive. He got brutalized in that second round, and he never gave up. He never wilted. He has great willpower. A lot of other guys would have folded. They would have packed it in. They would have said, just waited for the stoppage or whatever. TJ Dillashaw did not fold at all. He knew that he was getting beat up, but he was confident in his abilities to be able to come back and land on Sandhagen or take Sandhagen down. I know he said in the lead up to the fight, I'm the more complete mixed martial artist. He tried to show it. He tried to take Sandhagen down. It wasn't really all that successful. But I feel like Sandhagen should have had more urgency in getting out of those positions, escaping the clinch position, escaping that back body lock that TJ was consistently getting over and over and over again. And maybe that would have been the difference in the fight, because maybe those judges, there's the key words, octagon control. And TJ was controlling the octagon, with those clinch exchanges there. He was holding him there. TJ was throwing some good strikes throughout when he was breaking off the clinch, when Sandhagen was fighting the hands. The second the hands broke, TJ was letting his hands go. There was one other moment I wanted to mention throughout the fight. Sandhagen did land a nasty spinning back fist towards the end of one of the rounds, and TJ just ate it. I thought he was hurt badly by the looks of it, but it looks like he just ate it, and he just kept pushing forward. So either way, I don't think, even though Sandhagen loses here, even though I don't think he should have on the judges' scorecard, which we had some terrible judging tonight, I think both guys are really winners tonight because they put on spectacular performance. Neither guy was really, dominated by any means by the other guy. And it was a great bantamweight fight. I think Cory Sandhagen should have got the nod, but he didn't. And another thing I'll say, and people will probably crucify me for this as well, but after witnessing this fight, that further cements what I've already believed. I don't think Cory Sandhagen nor TJ Dillashaw can beat Petr Yan. I just don't think they can do it. I think once Petr Yan wins his belt back against Aljamain Sterling, he'll probably fight TJ Dillashaw next. And I just don't think, if Yan's outstriking TJ Dillashaw like that, TJ's not going to be able to control him in the grappling exchanges the way he did Cory Sandhagen briefly tonight, which he really wasn't even able to all that well. And Sandhagen, if he's getting held against the fence for any amount of time against TJ Dillashaw, Yan, who's a better grappler than Aljamain Sterling from what we've seen, how is he going to fare against a guy that's just that good with all the throws and trips? It sucks because both of these guys are really fun, interesting matchups for Yan, but I just don't see how either one of them gets it done. I think, we're going to see it probably early next year for TJ Dillashaw. I said that before, former champion. I don't think he deserves it after this fight. I think he should have to win at least 2 fights. Maybe the UFC will let him or make him, but I doubt that. I think they're going to give him a title shot next. We have to wait for, some resolve in the division with Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. I think that's coming up in October. Then TJ will probably fight for the belt whenever after that. I don't know if that'll probably not be till early 2022. But either way, I'm not picking either one of these guys against Peter Yan. So let's move down the card. I'm going to briefly touch on the rest of the main card. This was a fun fight card tonight. None of these guys I consider, future really championship or contenders. But there were some decent fights, and it's worth just briefly covering it. I like talking about MMA in general. The main event was where it's at tonight, so I'll briefly touch on these other fights. So you had Kyler Phillips versus Paiva. Great fight, fun fight, fan-friendly fight. In the first round, Phillips looked spectacular. He was getting in and out. He was being super reckless, but he was landing. He landed some nasty standing elbows. He hurt Paiva bad. Paiva had some moments in the round, but for the most part, Phillips was just blasting him, and he was landing everything he could throw at him. There were some filthy standing elbows repeatedly, hurt him badly, and it looked like Phillips was going to kind of coast to a victory. It looked like maybe he might finish him in the second round, and it ended up not being that. In the second round, both guys came out. They were landing back and forth shots. This was a back and forth fight. First round, some people were saying it could have been a 10-8 for Phillips. But eventually, Paiva gets the decision. I don't remember if this was a split decision or not. The third round, both guys were super tired. Both guys in that third round, even though the second and first was so eventful, first was really good for Phillips. The second I thought was closer, but I thought Paiva took it. The third round, I thought Paiva clearly won the third round, but it was very uneventful. It was really both guys shooting for takedowns, looking for moments to rest on top of each other. And, it wasn't a great third round, but the first and second round were crazy. Eventually, I think the judges gave it to Paiva second and third. I don't think any judge could have gave it to, him the first. It was arguably a 10-8 round for Phillips in the first. I would have no problem with that based on he was almost stopping him quite a few times. I don't know how he survived. Paiva was super durable in this fight. A couple times he walked right into a standing elbow, and it was just brutal. So I got to give it up to both guys. It was a fun fight. Definitely worth the watch. Moving down the card a little bit more, you had Darren Elkins versus Darrick Minner. I thought Darrick Minner was going to win the fight. In the first round, it was looking that way. Darrick Minner was landing shots, eventually got Darren Elkins down. I don't remember how they, when you watch so many fights, I really don't, it's hard for me to remember everything that happened, but eventually they ended up on the ground. I think Minner might have hurt him a little bit on the feet. Then Minner was looking for a guillotine. Darren Elkins is just so gritty and so determined to get out every submission, and he was able to get out of it. Minner was spamming the guillotine the entire first round, and this is where I'm talking about the leg lock problem, where I talked about in the Sandhagen-Dillashaw fight. Elkins started to roll for a leg lock on Minner and left himself susceptible. And Minner landed some elbows that were almost looked deadly. Looked like they could have killed Elkins. Elkins' head was flat against the mat, and Minner threw his full body weight into those elbows. And we've seen it time and time again from Darren Elkins. This guy is so durable. The referee was looking at it very closely multiple times in the first round. Elkins almost got submitted so many times, but he escaped him. He's just so crafty and grindy and grinder. He's such a grinder. And it's so durable. And he just escaped all the submissions attempts. He ate the ground and pound. And eventually, the second round comes out, and Darrick Minner is exhausted. And when you're exhausted against a guy with the stamina of Darren Elkins, you're in big trouble. Eventually, Minner went for a takedown in the second round. I think it was very early. He was reversed, and eventually, he just had nothing to offer. He was exhausted. Darren Elkins was on top, brutally ground and pounded him. I thought the fight was a late stoppage. It could have been stopped 10 seconds early, which doesn't sound like much. But in the world of MMA, when you're just eating shot after shot, I just thought it wasn't a very good stoppage. It wasn't the worst stoppage I've ever seen. But during the live fight stream, and maybe I'm crazy. I know some people probably disagree with me. I'm just giving you my opinion. It was a late stoppage, man. He was just pounding on him, and the referee was just not stepping in. I'm like, what is going on here? So Darren Elkins gets the second round TKO, finally get the stoppage, another win for Darren Elkins. And this guy just eats shots until you're tired, and then he finishes you. What a Great win for Elkins. I don't think he's going to go anywhere in the division, but he gets a win, so he gets another paycheck, and he gets to stick around in the UFC for a little bit longer. So moving down the card, you have Maycee Barber versus Miranda Maverick. I thought Miranda Maverick was going to win, and I think she should have won. This was some more of the wonky judging. I didn't think this was a super fun fight. I thought it was relatively boring. You had in the first round, you had Maverick really just landing the better striking. You had Barber just hanging back. She was throwing some winging punches, but it was mostly just hitting air. There was really nothing going on. And it was very similar in the second round. I think Maycee might have gotten a takedown in the second round. It's hard to remember everything that happened in this fight card going over all these fights. But I thought Miranda won the second round as well. I thought it was easily going to be Miranda taking rounds 1 and 2 and Barber taking round 3. Now in the third round, Maycee Barber finally did turn up the pressure. Miranda was tired. She was just pushing her up against the cage. I think she got her down at one point, was ground and pounding her. But it wasn't nothing super dominant, but Maycee Barber clearly took the third round. So I thought it was going to be, I got to respect Maycee Barber. She was looking for the finish in that third round. I think she knew she was down. She said she didn't think she was down at the end of the fight in the post-fight interview. I think she knew she was down. And she was looking for the finish in that third round. And she really put it on Miranda, who was tiring out. It wasn't ever close to a stoppage by any means, but, she landed some good shots, and she overall dominated the third round. So I thought Miranda was going to get the decision 29-28. Nope. Maycee Barber got the decision. I believe this was a split decision as well. I thought, this was close to a robbery, in my opinion. I think this was a bad decision. I think this was bad judging. I thought personally watching it, I thought rounds 1 and 2 were clearly to Miranda Maverick. So there you go. Now let me get to my second favorite fight on the card before the fights ever happened and after the fights ever happened. That's Yanez versus Randy Costa. I've heard people pronounce it different all over. Randy Costa absolutely went out there in the first round, and he was blasting Yanez with jab after jab, head kicks. He was doing like that lean-in head kick we've seen from guys like TJ Dillashaw, and he was really working over Yanez in that first round. He landed so many strikes. He bloodied up Yanez and just landed so many good punches. It was close. It looked like he hurt him badly quite a few times. Was just sprinting after him, landing punches. The jab was super effective. And Yanez just really had nothing to offer in that first round. And it was one of those cases where, and I said this again during my live fight stream, even though Yanez was eating a lot of damage, you could tell he was still there. He was ready to fight. He wasn't packing it in and ready to quit, like, I'm going to lose this fight. He was there to fight. And sure enough, he came out in that second round, and he finishes Randy Costa. And it was a barrage. I don't even remember, Randy Costa ended up shelling up against the cage, Alistair Overeem style. Yanez was ripping to the body, eventually lands an uppercut. I don't know if it was one of the body shots that really freezed him up. It was hard to tell. There were so many shots landed. He was just tired. He had tired out, trying to finish Yanez in that first round, and he just had nothing to offer in that second round. And eventually dropped him with the uppercut right in between the guard. He was shelling up like Alistair Overeem, and Yanez just threw an uppercut right in between the guard, landed right on the chin. He dropped down to his knees, was just shelling up some more. Yanez just swarmed him, and eventually the fight was finished. He gets a second round TKO. Great performance. A very interesting prospect in the bantamweight division. And for him to come out there and face the level of adversity that he faced in that first round, where he's almost stopped, he's brutally beat, his face was being jabbed off. And it looked like, from somebody who doesn't watch the sport, if you just tuned in for this fight or whatever, you'd be like, there's no way this guy's going to be able to win this fight. To come out in that second round and show that, what, I'm still in this fight. I'm not packing it in. I'm ready to fight. I trained hard for this. To come out and finish the guy that was just swarming you nonstop for an entire 5 minutes. And I think, that's something, when it comes to fight IQ in the game, you got to determine, do I waste my energy here looking for a stoppage? Because, Randy Costa probably thought he was going to stop him. He was landing so many shots, and he was just swarming him for the entire first round. But it's one of those things you got to think about. Do I hold back now? Because I might have to fight for 3 rounds. And I guess, he thought he was going to get the finish, and he didn't. And look what Yanez did in that second round. Spectacular performance by Yanez. I'm super impressed. I can't wait to see where he goes in the bantamweight division. He obviously has some weaknesses to work on. He has to work on his defense as far as striking. There's no way that many jabs should have got through his guard and really bloodied him up in the first round like that. But overall, you got to say, this guy's been tested as far as adversity, and he gets a spectacular win. And Randy Costa is a quality fighter as well. I don't know how good he is, because neither one of these guys has been tested against elite competition, but great performance to come back and win. I love to see it. Overall, the card was super fun. Regardless, even though TJ Dillashaw gets a decision that I didn't think he necessarily earned, it was a great fight. So we're all winners. I don't think Cory Sandhagen's stock goes down at all. Let me know what you guys think of everything that I said in this video. Thank you so much for watching my post-fight. I appreciate every single one of you guys for the support, and I will see you in the next video.